Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut right here at iHeart headquarters. Today I'm joined in studio by Nathalia Melo. She's a mother of two, a wife, and a global recognized fitness coach with over 15 years of experience. Having spoken in over 30 countries and featured in magazines worldwide, her expertise truly extends far beyond her title as a former Olympia champion. Her unique approach to fitness, health, and mindset has made her a sought-after speaker and coach. With the support of a multidisciplinary team that includes a registered dietitian and licensed counselor, Nathalia has helped over 5,000 high-achieving women transform their fitness journeys and reclaim their confidence. Today, she works with busy working women over 35, guiding them through the challenges of balancing health, career, and family by implementing strategies that lead to success that really last. She's going to join me to share her tips for busy moms on building body of your dreams while balancing work and family and on approaching health and wellness with a positive mindset. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Nathalia. Welcome, superstar.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Wow, what an incredible biography you have. Wow, you are truly a trailblazer in your field, a powerhouse, and your journey is nothing short of inspirational, from earning the title of Miss Olympia back in 2012 and then welcoming two beautiful children into the world, and of course, learning to balance it all. We know how tough that could be as moms. Now, I know this shift in life wasn't easy and came with its own set of challenges. Could you walk us through how you had to reevaluate your fitness routine, your time, and really your outlook in this period of life?
Absolutely. So transitioning from competing and my body basically being my tool of work, then becoming pregnant, I realized that something had to change. And my kids are actually 14 months apart. I fell pregnant with my daughter when my son was 4.5 months old.
God.
So I was like, yeah, I still have a bit of PTSD from that.
Yeah,
Then
who wouldn't?
I had to reevaluate and, look at my priorities and be like, okay, so what is it that I can do with the time that I had? And it wasn't something that just happened. There required a lot of, self-evaluation and organizing my time and prioritizing the things that mattered at that specific point in life and take it from there.
Wow. I truly, your philosophy is all about restructuring your life to better accommodate these, new roles, if you will, and responsibilities instead of just doing the same thing over and over again. And I really appreciate how transparent you are about learning how to balance your fitness and your marriage and your business and your motherhood, because you're certainly not alone. In fact, when you look at the data, 64% of full-time working moms only manage to set aside 1 hour for themselves daily, just one. And that's, that's not enough time to dedicate to yourself. And it's so hard to maintain peak physical and mental health and form with everything else going on. So as someone who has gone through this yourself and founded an academy to help women master this, what are some specific strategies you recommend for us busy moms to really build the body of our dreams without sacrificing our families and our work?
I think that the first thing that we need to look at is objectively look at your schedule and understand that obviously life is different. And I find that for a lot of women, they try to keep on implementing the same things that worked for them whenever their only responsibility was to, have clean underwear and and make it to work, and that's it. And then now it's a different season of life. You have to keep up with the house. You have a full-time career. You have a spouse. You have kids. You have all the activities that the kids come with, and understanding that the strategy is going to have to be different. And what I see a lot of times is people trying to do what they perceived as you worked before now, and then they end up spreading themselves too thin, end up frustrated without results, and then they just throw their hands up in the air and it's like, oh, maybe I am the problem. And what if instead of looking at I am the problem, try to find a strategy to work with what we have? And what I mean by that is like the time that you have, the availability that you have. Obviously, understanding that there are some boundaries that are going to need to be set, but something it's always going to be better than nothing. Because what I see a lot of times is women later in life, whenever they reach out for help, that they find themselves in a place that they never thought that they were going to be. So it's much better to be proactive and work with what you have, even if it is just to maintain, than to be seeking that perfection that is ultimately not going to work and is going to lead to frustration.
That's great advice. Now, I know you've also been very transparent online about how having your daughter changed your outlook on your body and fitness. So let's shift to that. There's a fine line when it comes to working out and perfecting eating habits in a healthy manner versus an unhealthy manner. And it becomes even more important to highlight this when it's in the spotlight in front of impressionable children. So, as a fitness professional and a mother to a daughter in a world so rampant with body image issues, especially for young girls, how do you approach fitness and encourage self love rather than obsessive, appearance focused outlook, knowing she is watching?
Oh, this is such a beautiful question. And this is a topic that I'm very passionate about for a number of reasons. One being that I am the child, like my mom, I'm Brazilian. My mom is your typical Latina mom. I think that Latinos listening are going to understand is you're never like good enough. You're either too overweight or you're too skinny. So there is never, you never win.
Yeah.
And that was the narrative that I grew up with. I was doing the cabbage soup diet with my mom when I was, what, like 9, 10.
Oof.
And I was a very slim child, and it's always like comments about your body, and it's always the praise that you receive is always around how you look in your outside appearance. And now, as a fitness professional, as I have a lot of conversations with women, and we really getting to the bottom of it, because I think that if you're not understanding the emotional side and the mindset piece of the change, is going to be very hard to create long-term change. And I see with the ladies that I work with now that a lot of their disordered eating behaviors and disordered patterns around physical appearance come from something that happened whenever they were children. So I'm like, oh, it wasn't just me. So it is something that I'm very cognizant with my daughter, especially, the language that I use around food. We don't talk about food as being good or bad. It's just food, because anything that you have too much of is going to, even water can be too bad if you have too much of. So always that language. We avoid making comments about their bodies. Oh, you're too skinny or you're too fat. Like, we don't talk about that. We don't restrict our kids on food, different types of food, because I think that can lead to disordered eating behavior patterns. And I'm very cognizant about how I behave, because one thing that I realize is that my generation, my mom would talk about her body. And then I think a lot of times now, the generation now is like, oh, I don't talk about my body, so I'm not, giving a bad example to my daughter. But your children are watching. So even if you don't speak, but you're acting in a manner that you're hiding yourself in pictures, you're not putting a swimming suit, your kids are going to catch up. So I try to embody the person in the confidence that I want my daughter to have.
That's beautiful. Now, we've covered fitness. Let's shift to eating habits, right? Because they go hand in hand. We're talking about this right now. So as part of your Powerhouse Academy team that includes a registered dietitian, you are knowledgeable on the subject yourself. And we know that beyond just exercise, eating a healthy, well-balanced diet is crucial for overall health. Once again, this is easier said than done. And it can become especially challenging when leading a busy life, juggling long work hours and kids. I'd love to hear your thoughts on diet culture. And then what are some practical tips or strategies that you recommend for busy individuals who want to eat well but just don't have much time to cook or plan meals?
People try to overcomplicate things, everything. It's an obsession with overcomplication. There is actually a name for it. That's complexity bias, and which is the belief that in order to solve a problem, you need to find the most complicated way of solving it. And what I have come to realize is that, especially whenever we're talking about busy women, like, you don't have time. Like, people are, oh, I'm going to carb cycle and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's all these very complicated strategies when the core, let's say an energy balance, like keeping the right amount of food that you have to eat, it's completely off, like derailed. It doesn't matter if you're carb cycling or doing whatever it is. If you're consuming too many calories, you are going to gain weight. That is just how it works. It's simple math. and simple physics, actually. So the first thing that we do when we start working with somebody is understand their lifestyle. You know, because if I'm dealing with, for example, an attorney who has a very, busy life, it's in court and things like that, I cannot look at that person and be like, you know what, you have to have a meal every 3 hours because that is what's going to be optimum. She might be able to do that for a certain period of time, but at some point she's going to crack because it's not conducive with the life that she has. So the first thing is understanding your lifestyle and objectively look at it and see what are the things that I can maintain and consistently show up for and do. That way I can be successful in the long run. It's easy to cut out carbs and, live off lettuce and ice cubes for a few weeks, but what happens after that? And I think that that's the part that a lot of people are missing. So in the context, even of what type of food, going to somebody, for example, that is eating fast food 5-6 days a week and be like, you're never going to have fast food ever again. It is such a big gap that it wouldn't make sense. So what about, hey, you have fast food 5 days a week. How about we reduce that to 3? And the other 2 meals that you normally would eat from fast food, you have a homemade meal. And you're keeping the barrier of entry very close and easy to stay compliant with. And once they start seeing the results, they're going to be a lot more inclined to maybe reduce another day of fast food. So it's really understanding what people's priorities are and meeting them where they're at, because people they have this obsession. I'm going to cut out carbs. Right. But then what happens whenever you have a birthday party with your kids? Like you see, like it really is about understanding people's lives and keeping it simple.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think most people overcomplicate the situation, overthink things. We are our own worst enemy. And, it's truly just taking a step back and looking at it from proper perspective. The easiest path forward is the one we should always be taking. Now, with proper eating and fitness habits, we also have to touch on proper hydration. So, hydration is essential for everyone, but essentially those who lead active lifestyles to aid in both performance, injury prevention, and most important, recovery. Now, one of my favorite hydration hacks beyond just water is coconut water. You guys all know this. It's a natural hydrator with a great source of essential antioxidants and electrolytes. It supports heart health, manages cholesterol levels, lowers blood sugar levels. I mean, the list of health benefits goes on and on. Nathalia, I know you're a pro. What are your top tips for maintaining proper hydration? And are there any specific hydration strategies or even drinks you recommend for people with intense workout routines?
I always have a big bottle of water next to me.
There you go.
I always have it on my desk. I find that that's why one of the reasons why so many people struggle to keep up with their hydration is because they don't have it accessible. So just the thought of getting and stuff like that. And it's, again, another thing about simplicity. You're not going to go from drinking almost no water to drinking a gallon of water overnight. So how about we increase from, I don't know, maybe you're having a small bottle of water to a small bottle and a half. So it really is about incrementally increasing it to a point where you are at the optimum level. I'm from Brazil. In Brazil, I grew up having coconut water, which is very interesting. That's once upon a coconut is the sponsor for this segment.
All right, are you ready to give it a shot and try it with me?
Sure, let's do it. And I can call myself a coconut connoisseur because being from Brazil, we have it all the time.
Okay, so I'm gonna try the chocolate. You're gonna try the pineapple.
Oh my God, it's nice. Oh my goodness, it is actually very nice.
Right? The pineapple tastes great. And it's also great to mix it with other drinks. Like you could use it, the Pure is great for a base for pre and post workout, but that one, you can even make pina coladas with that all day.
Ooh.
You can hydrate while you intoxicate.
I like where your head's at.
Now, I have the chocolate one. This one tastes like a Yoo-hoo with just all the proper benefits, though. Now, okay, we're gonna move on. Now that we know that we have Natalia's seal of approval for Once Upon a Coconut. So you are clearly an expert in all things health and fitness, and I love how you've created the system and academy to help other women turn their bodies and lives around. I'm curious, When working with such a diverse group of clients, how do you tailor your approach to fit each individual's goals and needs?
Um, it's kind of like I was mentioned before. It's understanding where people are at, and I think that that's one of the reasons why so many people are staying stuck in their fitness journey, because they're always like, there is no shortage of information out there, and then because there is so much information around fitness, everybody's like, oh, I know what to do, but it's kind of like, I've had teeth in my mouth for 38 years, and I know that I have to brush my teeth. But if something is derailing, I'm not going to try to fix it myself. I'm going to go to an expert for that. And for a customized solution to the problem that I have. And I find that with fitness, everybody's trying that one size fits all, which couldn't be farther from the truth, because even, with our client base, we have somebody who is a pilot, and then we have a attorney, and then we have a doctor, and then so there's so many different lifestyles that we need to understand that each individual needs their own specific solution to where they're at, and meeting them where they're at. And kind of piggybacking on what you mentioned before around diet culture and things like that. I think that we are so caught up on the outside that we forget about what happens on the inside from an emotional standpoint when we are taking care of our bodies. And what I mean by that is, regardless of size, whenever you're constantly following and going after the next diet, your brain is always thinking about the food. Is that going to make me gain weight? And you stop living, and you stop being able to be present, because that is the thing that is always living rent free in your brain. And that's one thing that I talk about all the time on my social. I don't care if you want to look like me, but the feeling of freedom to be able to go to a restaurant and have a meal and know how to eat that meal, and know that it's not going to have a significant negative impact on my progress, that is true freedom that I feel a lot of women don't have, because they're always chasing that next diet.
Wow. Well, you definitely put things into perspective, my dear. We're almost out of time, and before we wrap up here, if you could go back to the very beginning of your fitness journey, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Stop looking for the quick solution. It took me a very long time, and growing up in a household where diet culture and always looking for the next diet. My mom, to this day, she calls me like, that's not what I do for a living, telling me about the next diet that she's doing. I'm like, ma'am, that's my job. I've been doing that for 15 years. So I not constantly be chasing that next diet with a beautiful name, because just because it works now, it doesn't mean that it's going to work long term. And whenever we're talking about long term success, we need to find a strategy that fits our lives in the long run.
Definitely have to put in the work. Yes. No fad diets. Well, we are at the end of our date, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thanks for having me.
That was our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. And that was the powerhouse Nathalia Melo, globally recognized fitness coach, wife, mama of two, and host of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Definitely head to her website, NataliaMelloFit.com, to learn more about the Powerhouse Academy system, and check her out on the gram at Nathalia Melo Fit. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.